Hey, it's Matthew Cudmore. Welcome to Story Behind the Stone, a show where we talk service, sacrifice, and story. Today, we're joined by U.S. Army veteran Stuart Smith. Joining us from Central Florida, Stuart is a lifelong advocate for his fellow veterans and has helped so many in the transition from active service to civilian life. We explore his 6 years on active duty and his inspiring journey to help veteran-owned businesses thrive all across the United States through both the National Veteran Small Business Coalition and the National Veteran-Owned Business Association. Stay tuned as we explore the profound gravity that Stuart brings to his role at Wreaths Across America as Master of Ceremonies at the Cape Canaveral National Cemetery for Wreaths Across America Day as well. Stuart, thanks for joining the show and for the work that you're doing to support those who served. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. Well, hello and welcome to Story Behind the Stone, a show where we talk service, sacrifice, and story. My name is Matthew Cudmore. I'm joined today by my guest, Stuart Smith. We first met over LinkedIn, a direct message called out of thin air, but you were kind enough to answer it. We've done some interesting things together. But before we get started there, we'd love to just get started with talking about your own service and what's been keeping you busy over the last 20 or 30 years. What I see is actively serving the veterans' cause and the memory of those that are buried in your local area. So much to talk about today. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, Matthew, thanks very much. And yeah, it was a true cold call. I remember you sent me a direct message and it was just a request for help. And I think I referred you over to the Merritt Island Veterans Center. And I'm a life member over there. If anybody's in the Central Florida area and is Disneyed out or just wants to get to something different, come to it's all completely donations. It's just amazing. And now we're 2 stories tall. We had to build a brand new building in order to hold all the memorabilia. There's actually a family there that has contributed one item from every single conflict in the nation's history. Family members, and it's just amazing and very powerful to go. I actually contributed too. I had a dear friend of mine who was a Navy veteran and really struggled when he got out of the service and had some success, but finally succumbed to, alcohol and drug abuse. And we were able to get him some hand tools through some donations. I know this is starting with a funny story, but we tried to get him some hand tools and he found a piece of wood. And when I say piece of wood, Matthew, 12 and a half feet tall piece of wood that he was able to carve, and it's called the Buffalo Hunt, is what it's referred to. He hand carved it. It's at the Merritt Island Veteran Center. So if you're, like I said, if you're in Central Florida and you want to see something uniquely different, it's beautiful too because the campus is right on the water. Come over and see the Merritt Island Veteran Center, which is what we're here to talk about too, right? Is all the great work you're doing, remembering people. And then, like you alluded to, my some 33 years of service to my fellow veterans. So I appreciate the time.
Let's turn the clock back, if we could, Stuart. Let's talk about your service and maybe your transition to civilian life and what challenges you faced and how you overcame them.
6 years, 8 months, 8 days on active duty. The Army issues you, or all services issue, what's known as a DD 214, and it has years, months, and days in it, right, for your service. I'll be very frank with you and transparent. Joining the military for me was a choice of almost last option, right? I was one of those young men that kind of railed against the machine in some ways, and I had some success after high school, but was really looking to find my way. And my father had been in the military, and my father-in-law had been in the military. And so I joined the Army. It was one of the best things that ever happened to me in my life because actually I met my wife on active duty, which was a great thing. And our son just finished 6 years of service on active duty. And so as you can see from the motif behind me, that's my father-in-law's casket flag, who was a U.S. Army veteran, and my father's casket flag, who was a Air Force veteran. And what's above that one, let me see if I can get my hand to go right. So this is really cool. This is a letter from a brigadier general when my dad went to Lackland Air Force Base in 1958 to join the Air Force. And he goes on to say what a transformation you'll see in your young man. You might notice that he's stands a little straighter and acts a little prouder. And then those are two pictures of him in basic training. And then this other one here is a letter from another general officer who responded to me in 1967. I was 7 years old in Hawaii, and my dad was stationed there. And I had written to my uncle's commander to ask him to come home for Christmas. And he was so kind. He sent this letter. And it's not a form letter either, and it's actually signed, not auto-penned. Sent this letter and said, "Hey, listen, the needs of the Air Force. We appreciate. Thanks for writing us." In fact, I did write it to the president, because the first line says, "On behalf of the President of the United States," who was Lyndon Johnson at the time. "President of the United States, I want to respond to you. Thanks for writing us a letter. Unfortunately, we can't have your uncle come home." Right. So, military service, long history. I was very successful in my transition, right? Because I left, I think it was September 29th, 1992. And I went to work for my brigade commander literally that week, right? So I've been helping a lot of veterans with transition work, and people can link up with me on LinkedIn, by the way. Military transitions work through Project Transition and Seven Eagle and some other programs that help military veterans transition, and done a couple podcasts with them. So that's on the LinkedIn page too, if you want to see those resources. But I had to learn it vicariously because I just went to work, right? I had a little bit of experience before that helped me out, but I just went to work, and it's tough for veterans as they transition now, right? And so the things they teach in the programs, like the transition assistance programs, all good stuff, but there are some secrets that are only gained from talking to somebody who's been there, done that. If you're transitioning military, please find somebody that can help you. But I left the service, long career in human resources, organizational development, all that good kind of stuff. And when you and I met, I was leading the Florida Association of Veteran-Owned Businesses. And so I've stayed with two other organizations, the National Association of Veteran-Owned Businesses, which works in what's called the commercial supplier diversity space, and then the National Veteran Small Business Coalition, which works in the GovCon space. So both of those organizations try to help veteran small businesses grow and develop. So both great organizations. Encourage people to check those organizations out there, because all the support you can get, right? All the friends you can surround yourself with, the more successful you're going to be. But when we talked, you went to the Veteran Center, and I just love what you guys are doing. And we also have one more connection, the Reads Across America. I was just really honored. Have a very dear friend of mine. Her name is Ruth Osborne. She's a Marine Corps veteran. And Ruth asked me if I'd be willing to MC this year's Reads Across America laying at the Cape Canaveral National Cemetery. So I was quite honored to do that. It's quite a privilege to honor folks who have gone before us, and in particular, those who've served honorably and maybe got out and had a civilian career and just wanted to be interned in the National Cemetery. But there are many folks who are there who lost their life on active duty. And so to be able to lay wreaths there is a really important thing. A lot of people don't understand that the VA, the Veterans Administration, is in the United States, is in charge of our cemetery program, right? And so the VA created the Cape Canaveral National Cemetery in 2016. I was actually there when it was opened. And so there was 17,000 grave sites designated there. And we've got a couple really famous folks who are interned there. A Tuskegee Airman. His name is Cowan, last name is Cowan. And then the very first Navy female commander of the Navy Nurses Corps, last name is Durick. So we got some famous people there. We actually have some pretty famous people from the county I'm from that have gone in the military service. So getting ready to do the big wreath leading, and I would encourage anybody, because we all can use volunteers, and we can really use like organization volunteers. Like scouting is a big part of this. When you do the wreath laying, like we're 1,400 wreaths, right? That's a lot of wreath laying, and you want to give the families a chance to do their thing, and then for those who don't have family representation that day, then we get to lay the wreath.
I want to give international listeners just a bit of context on what Reads Across America Day is. What is it? What does it mean to you?
December 13th, right? Millions of people across America, from our national cemetery in DC to cemeteries like Cape Canaveral Cemetery, We go to remember, honor, teach. I can't think of a better way to just sum it up because that's their moniker. And so we do just that. Remember those who have gone before us and honor their service and sacrifice on that day with the wreath laying, and then teach the next generation about service and what it means to serve. So it's a great organization. You can sponsor a wreath. And depending on where you're at and how the wreath laying cemetery or ceremony goes, if you're a family member, you can lay your own wreath. And then if you're not and you just want to honor somebody, just go and become a volunteer. It is really cool. In fact, we get so many people there on that day that we end up having to bus people over, and the highway or the sheriff's department shuts down one full lane so we can park people. So a lot of people come in. Yeah, it's just really cool. So wreaths across America.
Huge community involvement. What does it mean to you to walk the rows at Cape Canaveral?
Yeah, it's you'll get me going there, brother. I tell you, the very first time that I saw the National Cemetery, awe-inspiring doesn't even come close. It's breathtaking. I mean, to look across that, and the VA has done a great job of replicating that. So it's the same stone, same headstone, right, with the religious affiliation if the service member chose to do that, their name, their dates of service, and sometimes a little remembrance from family members. I think that's the coolest thing to do, is not just look at the big picture, but go to the individual headstones and read, what people thought about them. It's really that's awe inspiring, and it's also emotional, right? To read what a wife, husband, you know, daughter, son, whatever, gave on that stone.
If you could walk me to one or two or three graves at Cape Canaveral, which ones would they be?
I think it would on some social media platform. Somebody had mentioned, "Hey, we're getting ready to have an internment, getting ready to have a ceremony, and this guy may not have a lot of people show up." I responded and said, "Hey, I've got some time. I'll come up." I didn't know him, right? Didn't know him at all, and I saw some other people post in response, "Hey, I plan to be there." And then all of a sudden, the local veterans motorcycle group said, "Yeah, we'll be there." And then all of a sudden, this and this group and that group, and there were 100 people there. That's just too cool. So, doesn't matter where you go, just go, walk it for a little bit, and just think and really recognize that these folks gave up a portion of their life, right? And for veterans, sometimes it's like, oh, it was a job, we just kind of poo-poo it off, right? Yeah, I had fun, got an education, was a job, is great. Some parts were hard, and some parts were easy, so on and so forth. But when you're enlisted or you're serving as a commissioned officer, you're going to do what you're told. And a lot of times being told to do something is not necessarily what you want to do, but it's you signed up for. So when people recognize that that's the significance of the sacrifice, no matter what you did, you could be a Navy yeoman or Army infantry guy or whatever the case may be. It's that service. So it's fun when it's fun. It's all inspiring when people get around, and it was fun going to that event and learning about this guy who happened to be a command sergeant major in the Ranger Regiment in the Army, which is a very difficult career. He spent the entire 25 years plus, and it was a great ceremony. And I just attended my uncle's ceremony up in Louisville, Kentucky, at the VA cemetery up there. And yeah, he passed away this year. And again, cold, wet, nasty day, to go up there. And I think it was early January, February, sometime in there. And again, people showed up, right? And the color guard shows up and taps and the rifle salute. It's just all inspiring.
You shared that your son just concluded his service. What does he think about your career and what you've been up to?
So Connor was like me, joined a little bit late, my son, and I think for him it was some of the same motivation. Like he sees everybody before him that served, right? So that's a viable option to go serve. He's just recently got out. In fact, he's staying with us for a little bit until he, goes to work. And it's just so cool to have, the next generation serve, right? And then maybe some of his kids will serve, or some of my daughter's kids will serve. So it's always fun to see that legacy go on and on.
Maybe it's already done, maybe it's complete, and I don't want you to spoil the surprise on your speech on Reads Across America Day as you MC. What are the themes that you think the crowd needs to hear?
Yeah, so we've been going round and round about this. So we're right in the middle of this decision. So the easy way to go is just to be the MC and keep it that very classic, stoic, here's what we're here to do. Remember, honor, teach. Thank you, right? And just give the time to those folks. Another idea that somebody had was there's several, more than several, but there's a lot of songs that have to do with death and dying. And we thought maybe we would put a song, the lyrics to the song, one of them, because there's 3 or 4 of them that we're thinking through, on there, and then say them, right? Say the lyrics. So not quite sure how we're going to do it. If I want the easy way out, I'm going to go formal and, get everything done in order, and thank everybody for being there, and really give the time back to the folks who are there to honor those who have gone before them.
When you're on site, is there a particular grave that you're going to place a wreath on that you plan to?
I have done it before as a volunteer. To let somebody else do that would be pretty cool. When I first heard about Reads Across America, I unloaded trucks. Right, that's always like the first cool job, and it's so impressive when you see 3 or 4 semi tractor trailers pull up, top to bottom, left to right, just stacked full of wreaths, and all fresh, like these are naturally grown wreaths. So it's really cool. So don't think there's going to be a particular one, but just just appreciate the moment and soak it all in.
What advice would you give to folks that are considering joining the coalition, and what are you hoping to accomplish in your role with that organization?
I got one of the best compliments is actually today. I was working with a guy who was active duty Air Force, and he was getting ready to transition. And I do a lot of just traditional transition work, and please hear me. It's all I just give it, right? So here's the advice. I don't charge anybody. I don't make any kind of money doing that kind of stuff. So, this guy's on Air Force active duty, and he's really thinking through here's what I did in the Air Force. Why don't I just go find a job like that in the civilian community? And he said that my words at the time were, why get a job when you can create a job? And he was really curious about that. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, hey, Alec, why don't you become an entrepreneur? Right? Why don't you not only create a job for yourself, do what you want to do, and have the freedom and the flexibility and the challenge of operating your own business, but you could also help your fellow veterans and your community. You create economic prosperity for a whole bunch of people. And he took me up on his advice. And so Alliance Cyber is a cybersecurity firm here in Cocoa, Florida that Alec Hall runs. So that story is what I'm trying to do with NVSBC and NaVOBA, is repeat that story over and over again. Give those veterans an opportunity to create a successful veteran-owned business and thrive economically.
Is there any way that folks can follow you on your mission, support your work and everything that you're doing across the coalition, across NaVOBA, and also with Reads Across America?
If you're a veteran-owned small business and you work in the government contracting and commercial space, come look at our organizations, NaVOBA and NVSBC. We'd love to have you find value in those. I think more importantly for my fellow veterans is just remember the promise that you make and never leave anyone behind. That'll keep you going in the right direction, right? No matter what your gift is, if you can share that with the person that used to be to the right or left of you, who might be following you out of the service, make sure that you don't leave them behind. And then follow me on LinkedIn, right? I love to connect with people and expand my network and help people. That's how we met, right? Great tool.
Exactly. Stuart, I've so enjoyed chatting with you and learning more. I thought I knew everything that you're up to, but that was just scratching the surface. We will see you on LinkedIn. We're cheering you on. We'll be thinking about you down at Cape Canaveral on Saturday, December 13th. And thank you for everything you're doing for veterans and for the community. It's hugely appreciated and inspirational.
Yeah, same thing for you, brother. You guys are doing wonderful work. I encourage people to listen to your podcast because I've listened to some of them and just see the great work you guys are doing. And I'm so glad that you reached out, right? And just appreciate all the effort you guys are doing up there.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Story Behind the Stone is available on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and on the Reach Across America radio network, on iHeartRadio, Audacity, and TuneIn. Just search for Wreath. We air every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern on the Reach Across Radio Network. Thank you for tuning in.